In this video, we're talking about 7 of the most common credit card mistakes that I see people make that lead to decreased credit scores, missed rewards, wasted money, and overall just unnecessary stress in your financial life. So if you're making any one of these 7 mistakes and you're either ignoring them or not fixing them, then I promise you're going to regret it later on. And also the third mistake in this video is a big one that I really haven't heard anyone else talk about before here on YouTube because it's sort of an unspoken topic outside of the credit card industry, so stay tuned for that. But let's start off here with mistake number 1 that I know I was really guilty of making a lot early on in my credit card journey, and that mistake is having high credit utilization. Now, you've probably heard people say, don't max out your credit cards, right? So if I have a $1,000 credit limit, then I should not spend up to a full $1,000 balance all at once within the same billing cycle. And most of us just associate this advice with not overspending, but really it also has to do with a major factor of your credit score called credit utilization, which is basically just a percentage that's calculated by taking your balance and then dividing it by your credit limit. So in this max out example, that would be 1,000 divided by 1,000, or 100%, which is bad and pretty much as high as it gets. Now, what happens is that usually once a month, sometime right around your statement closing date, your credit card issuer is going to report to the credit bureaus what your final statement balance is, which is basically just the net total of all the purchases and other transactions within that monthly billing cycle. So if the credit bureau saw my balance in this example and that I was using 100% of my available credit limit, then they would probably think, okay, Daniel is borrowing and spending way too much relative to his limit, and that seems risky. And based on our experience, we think there's a high chance he's not gonna pay that back. And so what'll happen is my credit score will then decrease, which tells other potential lenders that I'm someone that might not be responsible with credit. Now, even if I do go ahead and pay off that entire $1,000 balance in full after it gets reported to the credit bureaus, and even if I pay by the payment due date to avoid any interest, my credit score will still decrease because it basically appears that I'm being risky with that high utilization. And that's just how these scoring models work, because credit utilization falls under the amounts owed factor of your credit score, and that's actually one of 2 major factors since it accounts for around 30% of your score. Now, okay, so obviously a high maxed out credit utilization of 100% is bad, but how high is too high? Or in other words, what about 50% or 30%? So at what point does credit utilization go from hurting your credit score to actually helping it? And for this, I like to talk about what I call the 30-10 rule. So for this rule, all you gotta remember is that experts recommend you should keep credit utilization below 30% for good credit. But really, the lower your credit utilization is, the better. So we actually wanna try to aim for somewhere below 10% if possible to have an even more positive effect on our scores. But I like to take it a step further by aiming to keep mine in the low single digit range of around 1 to 2%, which has really helped out my credit score since I started doing this over the past few years. Now, I try to keep my utilization low on each one of my individual credit cards, but I also try to keep my total credit utilization low across all cards combined because the credit scoring models look at both of these utilizations. And here's a few tricks that can help you to do this as well. So first, take note of your credit limit and then monitor your spending relative to that limit, and also figure out when your statement closing date is, because usually it's on or right around that date every single month when most issuers report your balance and your utilization. So then all you got to do is at least a few days before that statement closing date, just prepay some of your balance down to a more acceptable amount. That way this lower balance and this lower utilization gets reported instead. So in that maxed out credit card example, if my balance was $1,000 and my limit was also $1,000, and sometime before my statement closing date, I would just pay down at least $900 or more to get a 10% or lower utilization. And again, the lower the balance and the lower the utilization, the better. What you can also do is just set reminders to pay down your balances once or twice per month on certain days for your most active credit cards. Or you can also try to get approved for higher credit limits, get credit limit increases on existing accounts, or open new credit cards over time to help you to increase your overall combined available credit. And that's because increasing your credit limits equals lower credit utilizations over time with all else equal. So if you're not managing or at least paying attention to your credit utilization, then I would highly recommend you go ahead and start now if you want to avoid hurting your credit score. Now, the second mistake that I want to talk about here that I see a lot of people falling for, and also goes along with having a high credit utilization, is what I call the 0% APR trap. And I call this a trap because so many credit card companies advertise all these 0% interest rates on new credit cards or balance transfers to draw in new customers. However, because of what we just talked about here with the credit utilization, you could end up dropping your credit score by a ton if you're not being careful. Now, a common thing that I see is that someone opens a new credit card, like maybe a store card, to take advantage of 0% financing to buy a new TV, a new sofa, a new mattress, or something like that. So if you don't want to drop like $2,000 on one of these things all up front at once, then instead you could split that up into much smaller minimum payments over time every month with no interest. But in reality, this actually might not be good for you because even though carrying a $2,000 balance on your new credit card won't cost you anything extra with interest for maybe 6 to 18 months, that's still a balance that's going to be reporting to the credit bureaus, and it can hurt your credit score with high utilization depending on what credit limit you're given. Plus, if you ever end up missing a payment, that could end the 0% rate and cause a much higher interest rate to kick in. So just be careful and know what you're getting yourself into before you ever say yes to using a 0% credit card offer. Now, with all that being said, there's sort of two general situations where these 0% deals might be okay to use. So the first would be if you're doing a balance transfer where basically you're transferring over an existing credit card balance over to a new card. And even though you might pay a one-time balance transfer fee, a 0% balance transfer card could be a good deal to basically help you get out of credit card debt because it's going to eliminate the extra interest for a period of time as you work to pay down your balance. And then the other time that a 0% APR offer might be okay is for business credit cards because you can open up these for your business and then carry a balance at 0%. And many business cards do not report to your personal credit, so you get to avoid that negative high credit utilization while still using that 0% financing for your business. Now, next, for mistake number 3, I have something here that is going to sound crazy coming from me as someone who creates content about credit cards and other personal finance topics for a living, but I want to address this to be fully transparent and hopefully to help people avoid what I think has become sort of a hidden mistake in the credit card world, and that is blindly believing all credit card content. So in case you haven't noticed, there are literally thousands of YouTube channels, blogs, newsletters, Instagram pages, TikTok accounts, and much more that all talk about various credit card and personal finance topics. And in many of these places, the content that people are putting out there is really good and really valuable and helps to educate the world about personal finance. But what I want to point out here is that myself and all these other online creators and publishers, we have links in our video descriptions, in our bios, and on our websites where if you click on those links and then sign up for and get approved for a credit card or some other financial product, we basically get a commission for that. Now, this is nothing new, and it's called affiliate marketing, which is a completely legitimate business model that is all over the internet, generating billions and billions of dollars in sales. And it's used in all kinds of industries, so not just with credit cards. But when it's done the right way with integrity, trust, and the truth, then pretty much all three parties involved in an affiliate marketing transaction can win. So a credit card company offering a credit card wins because they get a new customer if you apply and get approved. You win because now you get a good new credit card that you wanted. And a publisher or a content creator just like myself wins because we get a commission that allows us to earn an income, but also reinvest back into our business. And then we produce more content and hopefully provide more value to our audiences. And the whole cycle just repeats over and over again across all industries all over the world. However, with the barrier to entry for affiliate marketing being so low that almost anyone can create a video or write a blog post, and because a lot of times there is that financial incentive to promote certain products or credit cards over others, whether those are your own personal links or through an affiliate network, occasionally you get biased content that leaves out information, and that's where the credit card mistake here comes in, and I think it's becoming more and more common. I think some people see a website or a content creator that's big or small, and they just assume the content they're watching is 100% correct and applies directly to them. But what I've learned is that in the world of credit cards, there's usually not a one-size-fits-all solution. So a perfect example of this is the Amex Gold Card. In general, this is a great card that gets 4x points per dollar at restaurants and grocery stores, plus $240 worth of Uber and dining credits that can easily offset the $250 annual fee. But if you live in an area that's maybe far away from a city and you can't use those credits, or if you're not going to redeem or learn how to redeem the Amex points that this card earns for travel, then the Gold Card is probably a terrible card for you. So what I try to do, and what a lot of other creators that I like do, is we attempt to give you all the facts as well as our own personal opinions with cards like the Amex Gold, but we also try to highlight that you have to do your own research to see if a certain credit card is actually a good fit for you. So basically, to avoid this mistake, All you gotta do is consume multiple pieces of content. That way you can develop your own thoughts. But just know there are personal affiliate links out there. There's affiliate networks and big marketing budgets all behind this content that you see online. And even though I think the majority of these links have good information behind them, you still have to be aware of it, so never blindly believe all the content you see. Now next here, the fourth credit card mistake is another major way that people end up destroying their credit scores very quickly. So that mistake is missing a payment. Payment history is actually the highest impact factor for a credit score because it accounts for around 35% of it. But all you have to know here is that having a 100% payment history is the goal, because even one late payment can drop your score by as much as 50 to 100 points. But luckily, you can easily avoid making this really bad mistake if you do 3 things to prepare. So first, set up reminders for when your credit card payments are due, and also set up auto pay to have as a backup if you want to. That way you never miss a payment by accident. And I still like to manually go in and review my credit card statements at least a few times per month, just to monitor my credit utilization and also to make sure all the charges in my account are accurate. But having some sort of auto pay in place to make at least the minimum payment, I think again is a good backup plan to have. And second, even though technically you only have to make that minimum payment every month for your payment to be considered on time, you should always pay off your credit cards on time and in full every single month. And to do this, all you have to do is after your statement closes on your statement closing date, you're gonna have around 3 weeks or so between that closing date and your payment due date, which is also a period of time called the grace period. So just pay your full statement balance within that grace period before the payment due date every month, and you'll be good to go. And I know that sounds complicated if you're new to this stuff, so if that did not make sense to you, then go ahead and check out another video that I have after watching this that I'll link to down below, where I explained everything in much more detail. And the third thing you can do to help yourself to have a 100% on time and in full payment history is to have the mindset to treat a credit card like a debit card and only use it to pay for things if you already have the money for it saved up in your bank account. And not treating your credit card like a debit card is actually our 5th credit card mistake here in this video. Now, I think there's too many people out there relying on credit cards to sort of make ends meet if they're living paycheck to paycheck. So in other words, maybe they put a $100 grocery bill on their credit card today, even when they do not have $100 in their bank account at this exact moment, because they're expecting to get paid in maybe another week or two. And look, I get it that living paycheck to paycheck is tough and we all come from different financial situations, but that does not change the reality that just one slip up can destroy your credit and land you in credit card debt really quickly if you do not have at least some sort of cash savings stashed away in a high yield account. So maybe there's an emergency expense that you did not plan for, or maybe you get laid off from your job, which is not uncommon these days. So if you're gonna be using credit cards, then you must prioritize getting some sort of a cash savings in place to make the system work. Now, personally, I've been using SoFi and their checking and savings account as my bank account of choice for a while, and I'm excited to announce they are now actually the exclusive bank partner of this channel. And with this SoFi bank account, when you do save money, you're gonna be able to earn up to 4.30% APY as of the filming of this video, which is one of the highest rates on the market. There's also no account fees, plus you can even receive your paycheck up to 2 days early when you set up direct deposit. That way, hopefully you get paid and start saving sooner. So again, guys, like I talked about earlier with affiliate marketing, this is an affiliate link, but it's also a financial product that I use every single day and I stand behind. So go check it out if you're interested at the link down below. Now, for the mistake of not using your credit card like a debit card, what I mean here is that if I use the debit card that came with my SoFi bank account, then when I swipe that card to buy something, money is pretty much immediately taken out of my account to cover that purchase. But with a credit card, you're basically borrowing against the credit limit that your credit card issuer gives you, and then you pay back whatever you spend within about a month. So what I'm saying here is that your mindset should be that when you're using a credit card to pay for something, do not look at it like you're borrowing money. Look at it just like you're using a debit card for money that you already have, because shifting your outlook like this is gonna lead you away from looking at credit cards as debt and a liability. So save up, get a good high yield bank account to keep your money, and then instead of borrowing with your credit cards, just use them like you would use a debit card for money you already have. But you're gonna be building credit, getting purchase protection, security, and other benefits for your transactions. And of course, you're also gonna earn some easy cash back or points for travel in the process. Now, speaking of cashback and points, mistake number 6 is using the wrong credit cards. This mistake is pretty self-explanatory, but there's really 2 main parts to this. So first, I see people using just one single credit card for everything that's maybe earning a flat 1% back, which is the bare minimum and actually pretty bad. And the problem is you're just leaving so much easy value on the table if you're doing this with your credit cards. Now, you don't need to get 16 cards like I have right now, but you can easily get maybe 3 to 5 credit cards to earn cashback or points in your highest spend categories categories like groceries, gas, travel, or even rent now too. I made a previous video talking about the Built MasterCard and earning points on rent, so I'll link that down below. And then the second part to this mistake that only applies to certain people here is earning cash back when you could be earning points and miles for travel instead and getting much more value. And to me, earning points and miles over cash back was a no-brainer once I started looking at the numbers. Now, cashback credit cards are very simple and straightforward, and it can sort of be a set and forget kind of wallet setup because all you got to do is just choose a few cards to earn maybe 2 to 5% cash back on all your major spending categories, and then that's it. And you should be able to get a few $100s in cash back per year from those cards. But if you do some research and really enjoy travel and numbers and getting organized with things, then earning flexible points currencies like Chase Ultimate Rewards points or American Express membership rewards points, they can give you so much more value when redeeming for hotel stays and flights and other good stuff like that. But honestly, again, this is not for everyone. However, if you are into travel, then I would definitely recommend at least looking into this stuff because you can get thousands of dollars in value per year from this compared to just hundreds of dollars with cash back. And then for mistake number 7, this has to do with a misconception that pretty much all my family and friends have asked me about at some point. So that mistake is closing an old no annual fee credit card. Now, with many other financial products like bank accounts, for example, when you open up a new one like that SoFi checking and savings account, then it usually just makes sense that you probably will transfer over your money and then close down your old bank account once it's empty. But with credit cards, it's completely different because even if you have a really old credit card account that you're not using that much anymore, it's still an open credit account on your credit report, and closing that account is eventually going to cause it to drop off your report and hurt your age of credit, especially if it was your oldest account, like maybe your first credit card from back in college. So for example here, my brother just moved into the city in Philadelphia, so he's been dining out a lot and taking Uber rides all around. So I suggested he go ahead and open the Capital One Saver One card to get 3% back on dining and 10% back on Ubers for a limited time, which he did. But then he asked me if he should close down his old Wells Fargo college credit card that he has and he's probably had open for like 5 years now because he said he's not going to be using it that much anymore. Now, what I explained to him was that even though he's not using it much, he should still keep it open because first of all, the card has no annual fee, so it's not costing him anything. And second of all, it's his oldest credit account, so if he closes it, then eventually it's going to fall off his credit report. And we want to keep those really old accounts open basically forever if there's no annual fee to help with the age of credit factor of our credit scores, which makes up about 15% of that score. Now, if he closed his oldest credit card account in good standing like he has it right now, then it'll stay on his credit report for another 10 years before falling off. But again, that's a mistake here because there's no point in doing that since it has no annual fee. And actually, if he did close this down, then what would happen is he would decrease his total credit limit because that credit just goes away. And then he'll have an immediate impact on his overall credit utilization since he only has 3 credit cards right now and not too much credit to begin with. So what I told him to do is to use his best credit cards on his top spending categories as he continues to optimize his wallet setup, keep credit utilization low, pay off his credit cards on time and in full to help with payment history and to avoid interest. And doing all those things is really going to help to continue increasing his credit score over time. But also for that old Wells Fargo college card, I told him just to make sure to use it at least once every 6 to 12 months or so. And that keeps it active because certain credit card issuers will close down accounts for inactivity after a long enough time of not using them. So putting a small purchase on any active cards every 6 to 12 months or so is a good general time frame to make sure nothing gets closed by accident. Now, I know that was a lot of information, so if you want to learn more about other credit card stuff, like the only 5 credit cards you need in your wallet to build the perfect setup, then go ahead and check out this video over here next. Or if you need to learn more about how exactly to pay your credit card bill the right way, you can go ahead and check out this video over here. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.